Hello to all my friends at the Lang Lang Academy. As we enter the third week, let's continue our discussion on art history. Do you remember what we talked about before? Let me help you review it quickly. Last week, which was the second week, Master Lang Lang taught Clementi Sonatina. Of course, this week, Master Lang Lang continues to explain this sonata, introducing many advanced and especially symphonic piano techniques. I'm sure it was a real eye-opener for everyone. It was an eye-opener for me too. When Master Lang Lang was recording the course, I was right there on site. In his course, you'll sometimes hear another person speaking, asking him questions. That voice is actually mine. It was also my first time learning from his course that a single piano can be played like an entire symphony orchestra. You can try to make the piano sound like various instruments. Piano performance can also draw inspiration and lessons from the way other instruments are played. For instance, Master Lang Lang emphasized that in many places, the piano can emulate the bowing techniques of string instruments, or mimic the timbre and even the playing style of wind instruments, right? Like, for example, double tonguing, right? I believe this must be very inspiring for everyone. Of course, since I was there observing Master Lang Lang's teaching in person, I certainly gained even more inspiration. You can go ahead and be envious of me for a second. All right, let's get back to the main topic. In the last lesson, our starting point was to help everyone understand what the classical style is. To understand the classical style, we need to make a comprehensive comparison with the style that preceded it, which is the Baroque style. But to understand the Baroque style, we must also know why it turned out the way it did. The reason the Baroque style formed, as we mentioned in the last session, is directly related to the Reformation. And to understand what the Reformation is, we must have a general idea of the entire history of Christianity. Only then can we understand why the Reformation broke out and what its consequences were for the development of art. So, last week we covered the history of Christianity in a fairly summarized way. We talked all the way up to around the 16th century when the Catholic Church, as the biggest financier, patron, and sugar daddy of Western art, had reached a stage of extreme extravagance and excessive flashiness. It was in this kind of environment that the Reformation broke out. The reasons for the outbreak of the Reformation are actually numerous and complex. It can't be simply summarized as just the corruption of the Catholic papacy. Let's first look at what the Reformation was dissatisfied with and what it wanted to change. First, we must be clear that after the Reformation, their core faith didn't actually change. Catholicism believes in God and Jesus, the so-called Holy Trinity of Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. The Reformation did not change this core of the faith. What the Reformation sought to change wasn't the level of faith or metaphysical spiritual matters. What it actually wanted to change was the management model of the Catholic Church. So what kind of management model did the Catholic Church have back then? To put it simply, the Catholic Church's management model in those days was basically a monarchical one. It was like a royal court, a top-down, pyramid-like power structure. In the Catholic clergy, the highest rank is, of course, the Pope. Below him are the heads of various dioceses called cardinals. Then it's divided further down, level by level. The most basic level of clergy are the priests of each individual church. Now, here's an interesting bit of knowledge. Regarding the title cardinal bishop, what does cardinal actually mean? It's not secretary, but cardinal. This word, shuji, originally meant a door hinge. A door hinge. In English, it's cardinal. And what does cardinal mean? To answer that, we have to look at ancient Roman mythology, which is quite fascinating. In ancient times, before the field of science as we know it existed, people would often explain natural phenomena or various real-world things by inventing and imagining different gods or deities to oversee and control them. For example, there's the famous sun god, Apollo, right? Then there's Venus, the goddess of beauty. The goddess of music and poetry is Muse, right? Poets and artists often fall in love and call a girl their muse, their source of inspiration. That's because Muse is the goddess of music and art. There's also Bacchus, the god of wine, and so on. This cultural phenomenon of using a god to oversee a phenomenon or object exists worldwide. Take China, for instance, right? Who is the god in charge of marriage? Yuelao, the old man under the moon, right? And the kitchen god, the god of wealth, and the door gods, right? But the Western way of assigning gods to things is incredibly detailed. They really break it down, and they're very imaginative. For example, there's a god named Atlas. And what does Atlas do? He's basically a pillar holding up the sky. Ancient people had a strange question. Why doesn't the sky fall down? As the Chinese saying goes, if the sky falls, the tall ones will hold it up. Well, Atlas is that tall one. In the ancient West, they believed the sky stayed up because a god named Atlas was holding it for everyone. Applying this idea of having a god for even the smallest things to every field, that's how the cardinal came about. The Latin word for cardinal is related to Cardea. She's also a deity, a goddess to be precise. And what kind of goddess is she? The goddess of the door hinge. One door god wasn't enough. You had to break the door down into parts. The door god is one thing, the hinge goddess is another. Maybe there's even a god for the lock, right? So in cardinal bishop, the word cardinal means hinge. Now, don't underestimate the hinge. It connects the door to the frame. And what does this door represent? It's the gateway to heaven. So the hinge is vital, serving as a crucial link or bond. Thus, a cardinal is the link through which believers pass through the gates of heaven.